standpoint is that quickness that we've talked about coming into this game is really difficult to prepare for. And the fact that they start two-point guards really allows you to handle the pressure far more effectively than what we saw with Michigan State.
All right, we're underway with Florida winning the tap and a quick shot and a quick two. It is from Frazier. Actually, it's a three for Frazier, who is incredible from the outside.
Now 7 for 13 from the three-point line in the last 2 games of this tournament after a quiet first weekend.
Once made 11 threes in a game this year. So he gets going. He gets going early. Look out. Here come the Huskies now. Napier has it knocked out of his hands. Lucky to recover, and he snaps it inside, and no one could not make the handle.
And early on, you've seen the adjustment by Florida defensively. Much better at staying connected to Napier on that pick and roll. That's an area they struggle with the first time these two teams met. And let's see if UConn can make the adjustment here as this game progresses.
Here's Wilbekin, outstanding player in his regional. Dumps it down low to Young, and he's blocked by Daniels.
And Steve, you don't think of UConn as being big, but when you have the kind of quickness and activity that they have, it makes you bigger. And that's an example there with his ability to get there and get the contest and the block.
I think Florida's advantage is with strength, because UConn is long and rangy. Florida needs to go into the bodies of those shot blockers like Young did there.
And Young makes it 5-0 Florida, and a quick pace at the start of this game. Almost got away from Boatwright.
And we're seeing pressure from Florida that we did not see in the first meeting between these two clubs. Billy Donovan really going after Boatwright and Napier with his bigs.
Here's a three at the UConn end. Napier tried to fly through and pick up the rebound, but it's back to Florida. This is Prather. With Defy guarding him. They're going to go back down low again. Young, having just scored, now doubled up. Finds Prather, who's dangerous on the inside, and Daniels has position.
And that's how you want to defend Young if you're UConn. Don't allow him to catch it in a sweet spot. Make him have to make a decision maker with the basketball. And that gives, I think, UConn an opportunity to rotate and also contest shots.
Boatwright in the lane, and Boatwright trying to get UConn on the board, but they're 2.5 minutes without scoring.
Their guards have to dominate this game if UConn is going to win. I think they need all 3 of their scorers, Greg. DeAndre Daniels, Boatwright, and Napier to have really good scoring games to pull off the upset.
And Daniels is the guy that is the one that's the wild card, if you will. Probably been more inconsistent than the other two, but he is a difference maker if he plays well.
It's Get. Spins, puts it up. Tapped up for 2 more. And a timeout called by Kevin Ollie.
Steve, you've been talking about it. That athleticism and strength down low showing itself here early as Florida has owned the interior and have owned this game early on.
We're back at the Final Four and glad to have Tracy Wolfson with us on the sidelines. Tracy?
Well, thanks so much, guys. There has been so many comparisons between Kemba Walker and Shabazz Napier. One of the other similarities is that they are both mama's boys, and we have seen Carmen Napier out here. She is in the stands cheering, and guys, he promised her that he would graduate, and he will do that in May. He will be the first of his family to graduate, and guys, how appropriate it will be on Mother's Day.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm not sure they actually beat the count.
No, the officials missed it. There was 11 seconds that went off before they crossed half court.
And that's going to be a foul call here on Florida. You know, they brought in Dorian Finney-Smith, and there's Shabazz's mom. Boy, was she celebrating as she should. at the Garden last weekend as UConn got off to a big start against Michigan State in that one. Totally the opposite of what we're seeing here.
The energy hasn't been there early on. In that last possession, people think the press is to always speed teams up. Oftentimes you use it to slow teams down, and it worked effectively on that possession for Florida, although the officials missed the call.
And Greg, I think what we're seeing is Billy Donovan taking a page out of Rick Pitino's book. Remember, Louisville went 3-0 against UConn. They really took the guards out of play as Daniels gets to the rim to score UConn's first bucket. But what Louisville did was they constantly put pressure on UConn in the backcourt, really took the fight to the game, and we're seeing Florida do the same thing here.
And that's going to be a foul call against Gaffai, but no basket. Prather doing what he does best, driving to the hoop, and finally we've got the Huskies on the board, and we've reached the first under-16 break. Your team, your way with the Final Four Teamcast. Watch the Florida Teamcast on TNT and the UConn Teamcast on True TV. Now, we were talking about a possible backcourt violation for the Huskies. Here's what happened.
Well, remember, the shot clock started at 33, not 35. So as you see the pressure being put on by Florida, you'll see it at the last second. They barely get it over in time, so the officials did make the correct call.
By a fraction.
By a fraction.
Unable to catch that one, and a turnover.
This is not a post-up team. UConn's bigs are best when they're setting screens, when they're on the move. When you have them stationary like Florida does, they're not a major threat. That's an empty possession for UConn.
Yeah, plus you have to create a better angle for that post pass. You don't necessarily always have to look to score it when you catch it, because it sinks the defense to the level of the basketball, which creates opportunity.
There's the shot from the outside, and UConn clears. Finney Smith unable to hit the open shot. And meanwhile, here's Napier.
And a good job with transition defense. We've seen how good Florida is after makes. Solid job after a miss there in getting back.
On the floor. Saved by Finney Smith. 5 minutes into the game, and Napier has not attempted a shot. Finney Smith at the other end. Takes it outside to Prather. Now Wilbekin on the run. He loves that one.
Just the subtle ball movement of Florida. Each player looking to penetrate with the idea of passing and moving the ball on. It's a foul in the backcourt by the Gators. But I love that possession, Greg. Just penetrate, but look to find a teammate. So Wilbekin actually the third Florida Gator to touch the ball off of penetration, and that scattered the UConn defense.
Then the foul on Casey Hill, the freshman guard. Second team foul on the Gators. We're off to the good start here at 9-2. Now doubled up on Boatwright. Gaffai snaps to the head. Napier wanting to get into it on this end, and he gets the assist to Brima.
And that's the advantage of the two-point guards, though, because the pressure was good, but Boatwright able to make that first pass that allowed Napier to get into attack mode in the open floor.
Young.
It's also the price you pay. Now a turnover by Florida. It's the price you can pay when you put full court pressure on against these two guards. Look at this perfect feed from Napier.
And that's how you want to utilize the bigs for UConn. Roma there, very capable at catching and finishing above the rim.
Roma, meanwhile, has come in for the Huskies. Lassonde, a graduate student by way of George Washington. He was a 1,000-point scorer for his years at GW.
Florida switching everything on the perimeter. Napier is seeing basically every Florida Gator on him at some point.
Here's Napier's first shot. And you get climbs high for the rebound. And then Young to Prather. He got stuck, comes back out to Hill.
This is an underrated passing team, especially on the interior.
There's one of those passes right there that'll put Young on the line for two. Watch the games live, including the Final Four team cast with NCAA March Madness Live. Download the app for your Amazon Kindle, iPhone, iPad, or Android device. Visit ncaa.com/March Madness. And here is the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, but even more impressively, 3 times the SEC Scholar Athlete of the Year in basketball. Patrick Young hitting the first, and Frazier's coming back out.
And Steve, you were talking earlier about Florida. The other thing they possess is versatility. We talked about the experience and the balance, but they're all good basketball players. They can all make a play with the basketball for a teammate, which also creates problems for you defensively. Really no weak link in terms of decision making on this Gators team.
Lane violation. He'll get one more. It was Napier in the lane too early.
And Greg, that versatility that you talked about really shows at the defensive end as well. Already we've seen Florida jump out on screen and roll, switch. All these players are capable of staying in front of guards, but they're strong enough also to battle down in the paint.
And battling right between 2 Huskies, Prather keeps it for the Gators. It's Hill to Young under the cylinder. That shot blocked, but right back into the hands of Frazier. So not a reset on the shot clock. 15 to shoot. It's Hill off a pick, weaving through traffic, and he lost it out of bounds.
And, you know, sometimes we lose sight. UConn's also a terrific 2-point defensive team, meaning they defend twos extremely well in the half court. And, you know, even though Florida has played really well here early on, UConn's still trying to settle into a rhythm of how they're going to attack offensively.
Napier shut off, gets it back out to Daniels for a reset with 10 to shoot.
Boy, they are swarming Napier on every pick and roll.
Yeah, he's got 2 on him all the time as soon as he touches it. Now with 2 to shoot, both right inside, and Young says no. And that's going to be ruled as a shot clock violation off the great block by Young.
You know, when we talked to Billy Donovan yesterday, he said our defense after we get broken down on the pick and roll is the key. Are we going to rotate? Are we going to contest shots without fouling? Are we going to close out on the shooters? And to this point, Florida has been flawless in that department.
They have, and also UConn is one of the best teams in the country the last 10 seconds of the shot clock. They're one of the most efficient, and that was another concern of Florida's, was could they stay connected and not lose discipline at the end of the shot clock, which is where UConn thrives.
Terrence Samuel has just come in for the Huskies, number 3. A freshman out of Brooklyn, New York.
UConn is, I think, offensively just looking for the weak spot in this Florida defense. I don't think there is one, Greg. The versatility means that anyone can guard anyone. And so UConn really struggling to find an opening.
Napier makes the steal. Feeds it, and the basket goes.
I think they waved that off, though.
Hold on a minute. It's going to be called on the Huskies. And a charge.
And really, you see here, looks like a good decision by Napier, but you get doing what you get does. He's the glue guy of this team, stepping in, sacrificing his body for that charge. Great job by Florida early on. Florida has controlled the interior early on, and one of the ways you're going to get to be able to attack that offensive glass is by penetration in the paint. It forces help, and then it leaves guys unattended there. You see Prather with the beautiful tap in for the deuce.
Jim Nance with Greg Anthony, Steve Kerr, Tracy Wolfson, and UConn with only 4 points on the board through the first 8 minutes as they took away the basket on the charge by DeAndre Daniels. Driving in and fouled. Count the basket on this end for Dorian Finney-Smith.
But just another example of really good offense there. And you see how Finney-Smith's able to get the angle there.
UConn,
weak side not able to rotate over, Steve.
UConn's trying to force that screen and roll to the sideline. That's Kevin Ollie's NBA background. And when you try to push the ball to the sideline, if you can get a quick reversal of the ball, the defense isn't quite set. And that gave Finney Smith that angle to drive.
Finney Smith, the SEC Sixth Man of the Year. Knocks it down for the three-point play. 13-4.
And here comes the full court pressure again. Billy Donovan, I think there were some questions about whether he would really want to press these two guards, but he has attacked them from the outset, and I think as a result set the tone for this game.
And really the issue, though, what we're talking about with UConn's, it's their defense. Remember, they were +10 in points off turnovers in that win. Here early on, they have not been able to generate anything off their defense, which is where they're going to get confidence from an offensive standpoint if they can get in the open floor.
Huskies over 3 minutes without a basket. There's Napier, still hasn't scored, and Finney Smith pulls it down. Now Prather loves to drive and lost it on the way in. Off the Gators. The 2014 NCAA Division I Women's Final Four begins tomorrow on ESPN at 6:30 with Maryland taking on Notre Dame for an opportunity at the national championship to advance on. For more information, go to NCAA.com. UConn to advance. Of course, the UConn women are there in Nashville as Coach Gino Ariema looking for another title. That one, Daniels just had to throw it back into the court. Taken by the Gators. Wilbekin on a wing. Frazier. Prather. And he's hacked on the way up.
Another offensive rebound. I thought a poor decision by Daniels at the other end, Greg. He could have let the ball go out of bounds. I'm not sure he knew it was deflected. But once again, good offense leads to good offensive rebounding position. Florida with that strength in the paint. That's their advantage in this game.
If you go back last week for UConn, remember the energy and activity they played with against Michigan State in that regional final? It has not been on display here. They've been on their heels. Credit Florida, though, for being the initiator in terms of the aggression and how this game is being played.
Foul on Nolan, his first. And now the first team All-SEC forward. Casey Prather will shoot one more as Yaget sits down and Young returns.
I thought UConn had probably the best home court advantage that I've seen in a long time in the NCAA tournament. Returning to Madison Square Garden, where, remember, they did not get to play the Big East tournament this year because they changed to the American Athletic Conference. It was like their home crowd was so happy to be back in the Garden. I thought they practically willed their team to that win. They were electric in that game against Michigan State.
The Garden where things really began to turn around for that program when Calhoun was building it. They won a Big East tournament in 1990, and that was the launch of a remarkable run that continues now under Ollie. Driving in, beautiful move, but couldn't finish. Tap once, no. And Young, no one's taking it out of his hands. That was Chroma who had the good look. And Wilbekin off the glass.
Kevin Ollie furious. He wanted a charge. I thought a good no call by the officials. But Florida's rebounding, Greg, 11-5 to this point. They are just controlling every facet of this game.
And they're also, because of their length and lateral quickness, by keeping UConn in the half court, that size has really stifled anything that they could try to get going from an offensive standpoint.
And holding the Huskies to only 4 points over 10.5 minutes into the game. Daniels doubled up, in trouble. Wilbekin, Prather, lobs it up, and there to follow it up was Young. They didn't get a clean handle on it to slam it down on the foul.
And you talked about it. Kevin Ollie wants this call, but a good no call there because really he was sliding over. If anything, you could have made the block call.
That should have been an emblem. Yeah.
And really UConn fortunate on this last possession to get possession of the basketball. But again, this has been about Florida's size controlling the game because they've controlled the tempo. And as the game speeds up, their players, Florida's, get smaller. And they've been able to make this game about playing their style. And Kevin Ollie, as you saw there, a bit frustrated with the lack of energy and really confidence that his team has displayed here early on.
Will you get back in for Florida? And a whistle outside. And that's going to be called on Frazier. This Florida team, third in the country in fewest points allowed per game, 57 a game. And 8 times this year, they held teams to 21 or fewer first half points. And we might have a 9th occasion here, the way things are going right now, with the Huskies still sitting at 4 inside of 9 minutes to go.
It's been a clinic by Florida. They have NBA athletes, but maybe not first-round picks. And as a result, Jim, these guys have all stuck around for 3 or 4 years. So it's a veteran team that's unbelievably athletic. Great combination.
Well, there's Daniels hitting the shot from 3, and it took 5.5 minutes.
And with that being the case, though, that three-pointer is the great equalizer. They made 11 in that game against Florida earlier this season.
That's going to be a second foul on Casey Hill.
And one thing I love about Shabazz Napier, he doesn't force the game. Here's just a simple play with that penetration into the paint that creates that opportunity for Daniels. And that's the kind of shot that could get this team going if they're able to come down that next possession and force the turnover.
Anybody who follows the Huskies knows if you can get DeAndre Daniels going, and that outside shot is there. He's had this breakout year for him this year. He's a kid out of Los Angeles, just like his coach Kevin Ollie, who came to UConn all those years ago. And he's just done that with one outside shot. Here is Boatwright with another.
And again, it's Napier's hockey assist there with the penetration, and that's the one concern Billy Donovan has, and he talked about it yesterday at length about how they have to stay disciplined with keeping Napier out of the paint.
And those 2 quick threes suddenly just bring this game to 16-10.
It's game on. I mean, UConn, I think, was stunned early by Florida's defensive versatility and rebounding. But those 2 shots now have brought on a bounce to UConn's step.
And as good as Florida is, they're not the type of team that will run away from you offensively. So if you're UConn, you stay patient and you stay aggressive and you get back in the game.
That is Samuel driving in for 2, and it's an 8-point run by Connecticut.
Kevin Ollie has gone to his 3-guard lineup, Boatwright and Napier, but also Samuel. This lineup was important in the regional last week against Iowa State and Michigan State.
Wilbekin this time never saw the rim. And the run continue. Here's Daniels, and he's done it again.
And you see right there, Jim, the game speeding up just a little bit, and it's because of UConn's defense.
Wow, did the Huskies catch fire and get right back. Now just down 1.
Back in North Texas, UConn has climbed its way back in with its defense leading to offense. Boatwright with the 3. And then in transition, Samuel, the freshman, getting the beautiful floater to go. And all of a sudden, Jim, we've got a ball game.
And DeAndre Daniels hit 2 threes as well in this 11-0 run. 11 points in about a minute and a half. After going some 10.5 minutes, 11 minutes with only 4 points.
All that pressure that Florida was putting on was coming off of made hoops. Once they started missing, they couldn't control the tempo, and another miss there for Patrick Young.
Well, how about the defense by Napier? It did just enough to get Young to catch it out of his comfort zone.
Last touch by Young. Huskies will have possession when we come back.
Coverage of the NCAA Men's National Semifinals is sponsored by DirecTV, Ford F-150, Northwestern Mutual, and by Coke Zero.
In a flash, this has turned from 16-4 to 16-15, and Napier still is scoreless, but the Huskies just got right back into it.
He hasn't scored, but he's been the catalyst. A couple of steals, 2 assists, and a hockey assist on that 3-point shot. This is what he does. The penetration, look at the collapse of the Florida defense into the paint to help, and then Daniels wide open on the perimeter. To me, Greg, this has been about pace. When the game is slowed down like here, where Florida can extend pressure just to use clock, now all of a sudden UConn gets into the front court. Florida's defense is set, but when UConn can force misses and turnovers, now they're much more difficult to corral.
And they're starting to do a better job on that defensive backboard as well. You saw that replay earlier where they were able to attack the offensive glass. Not as easy for them to do that here in the latter stages.
Huskies with a hoop. Can take their first lead. That's kicked by Yaget. With just 4 on the shot clock, let's go over to Tracy.
Well, guys, one of the things Kelly Ollie loves about his team is their toughness. And Kevin and Ollie said to them, we need to have more fight. And that's what they did. He likes them to keep attacking the basket. And as for Billy Donovan, he said, they were tougher. Now we were tougher early, guys.
2 seconds to shoot. Daniels. And a second shot clock violation on the Huskies.
In a lot of ways, Steve, this game's similar to the first one that these two teams have played. Both had their moments, and it was because they were able to impose their style on the opponent, and we've seen that play out here in the first almost 15 minutes of this first half.
And now we get our first look at a zone from UConn, and he's played mostly man-to-man during the NCAA tournament, so a different look for the Gators.
They get the shot from the corner, and Finney Smith's shot spins out. Here comes UConn again. Florida's missed its last 5. This is Samuel.
Samuel really sped the game up. I think he really helped change the tempo in this game and give UConn another penetration option.
Boatwright jumps over to retrieve it on the baseline. Back out high to Napier. 7 to shoot. In the paint. And that still will stay with UConn. And again, they'll have just 4 to shoot.
You see here the penetration, and does a great job, Fraser, just staying with that play there, and able to come. I'm sorry, Finney Smith, and able to come up with that block.
Wilbekin back on the floor.
And another late shot clock situation here for UConn.
Boatwright shakes off the defender, and off the floor, it's Finney Smith. Driving in, Prather, beautiful move.
How about the jump he made this year offensively, Greg? Prather was a non-threat offensively for 3 years. Comes back for his senior year, he's the leading scorer on this club.
And it's not always, Jim, it's not always about your ability to make shots. It's all more about your ability to take shots you're capable of making, and that's what he's done this season.
Here's Napier. Dumps it down low, Nolan. Bouncing around and off the rim. That basket by Prather snapped the 5-minute drought.
Tempo right back Florida's way. It's amazing. Put the ball in the basket, and Yaget gets fouled here. But when Florida can make a hoop, the game just totally slows down in their favor.
And then you see here a beautiful attack. That's a terrific finish. Under duress there by the young man. And you talked about it, Steve. He's really just matured as a basketball player. That's really the difference in his game.
His scoring is up over 7 points a game from his junior year, and now at the line, it's Yaget, the young man from France, from Bordeaux. Get the most complete coverage of the sports you love all year long with the Team Stream app from Bleacher Report. Go deeper with Team Stream on your iPad, iPhone, or Android device today. That's the second foul on Nolan, so the Huskies have 2 on Nolan, as well as 2 on Chroma.
And I think Kevin Ollie is okay with that, Jim, because Samuel has come in here and done a nice job. Defy's going to come in for Samuel, and I think Nolan and Chroma will alternate, but I think Ollie has realized quickly the 3-guard lineup is more comfortable for him. And actually, look at this lineup on the floor now. This is like a 5-guard lineup with DeAndre Daniels kind of playing center.
Here's Napier, and Napier's on the board as he rattles home the three.
And we talked about earlier how with UConn, basketball is about rhythm. They're starting to get a feel for how Florida's pressure in terms of the extension of it is going to function, and now they're finding good spacing in the half court.
You get back of the rim, pulled down Boatwright.
If you're Billy Donovan, I think you bring Patrick Young back in the game. If UConn wants to go small with all these guards, bring Young in, throw the ball into him in the paint, and make the Huskies pay.
Gaffai and one. And a trip to the line for the Huskies' first lead.
And Florida showing some zone there, and a great read by Daniels to get Gaffai involved. That basket will give that young man some confidence.
One of three holdovers from their 2011 national championship team. Led 16-4, and now the Huskies are on a 16-4 run. And here's a look at the Infinity Coaches Spotlight with the two-time national championship coach, Billy Donovan. 18th year on the Gator bench. He's a lock to be in the Hall of Fame someday.
Funny that we were doing a press conference last week, and a reporter asked, well, if Billy Donovan wins the championship this year, will that put him into that discussion of elite? I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, he's only won
already?
2 national championships, 4 Final Fours.
You know, the best stat that I saw was prior to Billy Donovan's arrival at Florida, the school's basketball program made 5 NCAA tournaments in 81 years. I mean, there was no basketball program.
Norm Sloan had a little stretch there during the Shinsis and Maxwell days, but whole new ball game once Billy got on campus.
And look at this defense now for UConn. 5 guards. Gaffai playing the center of a zone. And it's a totally different look. Let's see how Florida attacks.
Look at Prather get way up in the air and a finger roll off the glass.
And that's exactly how you attack it. There's no shot blocking on the floor for UConn. They're hoping to bait Florida into shooting threes, and good discipline by the Gators.
So the Huskies' first lead didn't last long, but now they'll try to reclaim it.
Interesting matchup here, guys. Patrick Young guarding Gaffai, the shooter, and now a switch. So Florida is going to have to manufacture some rotations here.
What a move. Napier.
And again, I think it's the lineup for UConn that created that. They get Patrick Young in pick and roll, so now they don't have a rim protector, and Napier takes advantage.
Wilbekin, that three is wide and pulled down by Daniels.
For Florida, if you're going to attack this zone, you don't want to just dump the ball into Patrick Young. You have to continue to run your offense and get all that movement to shift this Connecticut defense around. But they may just switch everything and kind of stay in a pseudo zone and try to confuse the Gators.
Turn around, Daniels! Got to give him a lot of credit for turning things around when he popped that three and then backed it up a couple of trips later with another one. Finney Smith to the corner. And now Frazier. And on his back is Gaffai.
In this possession here, Gaffai picking up the foul, you see Napier, you see where Patrick Young is up top. Napier recognizes that and knows that he can get to the rim and finish unabated. And then Daniels is that X factor. When he plays well, UConn can play with anybody in America.
It's going to be a 1-and-1 at the line. Second foul on Gaffai. And coming in for the first time is Tyler Olander, who started for the Huskies in the national championship game against Butler and scored the first basket in that game down in Houston in 2011. So 1-1. Saves it, though.
It's going to be interesting to watch free throw shooting in this game. We haven't talked about it much. UConn, one of the best foul shooting teams in the country. Florida can really struggle. Something to keep an eye on if this game is close late.
And credit Florida, though, here. UConn's only attempted 1 free throw here in the first half.
Now with under a minute to go.
Olander's going to get called for the foul here, battling Patrick Young.
And this is an example. You see, Olander, you've already done the job by getting Patrick Young out of the paint as a post player. Not effective if he catches it at that position. Olander's just got to recognize there.
You know, that's not a bad foul. You've already seen Young 1 out of 4 at the line, and you put him back with another 1-and-1. So Olander's the third guy they used as center. He had fouls to give, and it leads to the Huskies not giving up anything on that possession.
See if Kevin Ollie goes 2 for 1. Not a lot of college coaches like to do the 2 for 1. Ollie has taken a lot of NBA experience to his job here.
Samuel driving in. Olander looks, hooks, misses. Frazier with 35 seconds.
Talked a lot about the job that Florida's done on Napier, but UConn's done a solid job on Wilbekin here in this first half as well.
Now he's going to start to move with 5 to shoot. Samuel defending. Wilbekin pull-up jumper. No. And it never hit the rim, so it's a shot clock violation. There should be, if it's a shot clock violation, they should put time back on the clock because there was about a 2-second differential. UConn should have a chance to inbound this.
Take a look here. This is what Florida has been doing at the end of halves throughout this tournament. Just clear out for Wilbekin. You can tell he never got his balance.
He slipped, yeah.
He slipped. Yeah, right there. And so look at the clock. There should be, I think, about 2.2, I'm going to say. But the officials will look at the review and make sure they have it right.
Never touch the rim. And somehow the game clock went all the way down to 0, but that's not going to be the case once they make the adjustment here.
Now that ball may have grazed the underside of the rim. And I think that's what the officials are looking at here. It's too tough to tell from this angle.
Really, from that angle, it doesn't look like it does. I think more importantly right now, you see Kevin Ollie, he wants to know as well.
If it did hit the rim, then I think the half will be over. And the officials will just rule that the clock operator had it right, but it's so difficult to tell.
I don't think there's enough information to change the call.
Well, that one right there certainly didn't look like it touched anything, except the glass.
And the other thing Kevin Ollie's trying to determine too by looking is he wants to see how much time, now that clearly does not hit the rim, how much time is on the clock.
Get about 2 seconds, you got to think. And of course, the last time they played, they hit a little buzzer beater at the end of the second half for the win. Napier, after Daniels had tapped it back to him. They made it just, well, it says 1.2 now. It'll be Olander to inbound. Boatwright, the closest Husky to him. Yeah, Buck might try something, but they just inbound it and head to the locker room with the lead. What a tale of 2 different stretches. 16-4, Florida, some 11 minutes into the game. They end up, though, with only 22. Their lowest first half total of the year, as it was a 15-point swing. Let's go over to Tracy.
Thanks a lot. And Coach, defensive pressure hurt you early, but what adjustment did you make to make that run down the stretch here?
We started getting stops on our end. We started playing good defense, started rebounding the ball better. They had about 4 offensive rebounds that really hurt us in the early going, but our guys just stuck together. I told you, Tracy, they fighters. They're going to keep fighting no matter if they down, no matter if they up. They got blind trust in one another, and that's what it took for us to get back in the game.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Jim?
Thank you, Tracy. Coming up, AT&T at the half with EJ, Greg, and the guys. We'll have all the first half analysis, plus a look ahead to Game 2 between Kentucky and Wisconsin. That's coming up on AT&T at the half. UConn leads it by 3. And you're watching the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship.
Coverage of the NCAA Men's National Semifinals is sponsored by Mercedes-Benz, Viagra, E-Trade, and by Applebee's.
A moment ago, here's Tracy with Coach Donovan.
Coach, they went to the smaller lineup. How much did that affect you down the stretch there?
Well, I thought their small lineup was disruptive defensively to us, and we didn't do a great job, I think, of flowing an offense. We got very, very stagnant. We got stationary. I thought the first 12 minutes we did a really great job of moving and passing the basketball, and then I thought the last 8 minutes of that first half we really were very stagnant.
How do you get back to that?
Well, I think we got to get back to moving and passing the basketball. We did get to the free throw line, coming down the stretch there, and we missed all of our free throws, so that kind of hurt a little bit because we were in the bonus. But we just got to do a better job of running our offense, spacing, moving, recognizing, and I think more than anything else, our guards need to handle their ball pressure better, especially in the middle tunnel. If we can handle their ball pressure and get the ball down the lane and do a better job there, that will open some things up for us.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Greg, Steve, surprised how this game flipped?
Not really, because in order for UConn to have success, they have to do exactly what they did. Be able to compete on the paint. And sometimes we get the quickness on the perimeter. They can defend the perimeter as well as anybody in this tournament. And so it's going to be vital for Florida, Steve, that they continue to try to attack the rim and not settle.
Daniels. Defy with the follow-up. He's made a couple of big plays.
You know, if UConn is going to continue to play small, and Grima is not starting here in the second half, those little battles for offensive boards, loose balls, deflections, those battles could decide this game.
And this is the biggest deficit of the entire tournament for Florida at 5. And it's the first time it's trailed in the second half of a tournament game. But they've got a foul call here on the Huskies, and it's on DeAndre Daniels.
The activity of Defy here, really fortunate by the bounce of the ball, just a missed time. That little touch of the rim there allowed that ball to fall off for Defy to get that putback.
Prather comes outside to Young. Kicks it to the top, Wilbekin.
And I tell you what, Ryan Boatwright has done a phenomenal job defensively on Wilbekin. He hasn't allowed him to be much of a factor, not only as a scorer, but as a facilitator. Only 2 assists as a team for Florida in that first half.
And Wilbekin with that shot challenged. And a good job of boxing out by Nolan.
This is what we saw against Michigan State. Boatwright getting underneath the ball handler, in this case Wilbekin, and really taking Florida out of its offense. Billy Donovan said, we got to get movement, we got to get the ball side to side. Too much one-on-one on that possession.
Napier bounces it to Nolan. And he's fouled while shooting.
And watch the defense here by Boatwright. The fact that you don't ever have to leave a body. You see Defy there, he doesn't have to come provide help. And that allows you to stay home, and that's what will help UConn be able to compete on the defensive backboard. If they don't get broken down via the dribble penetration or the pass, they're going to have a chance in the paint to compete.
First foul on Prather. 2 shots for Philip Nolan.
And Greg, it's a great point. That's exactly why it has to come from the pass. That's what Billy Donovan said to Tracy. They're not quick enough in the backcourt to get around Boatwright and Napier. That's the strength of this defense, is perimeter pressure. It has to come via moving the ball in the perimeter side to side. You pass the ball, it's always going to move quicker than the defense can.
And you see Casey Hill checking in right away. Billy Donovan probably not happy with that very possession. And also, Casey Hill has the best vision, I think, on this Florida team. He's had a game already in this tournament where he had 10 assists. And right now, they've got to get some continuity offensively because it won't allow them to have an impact defensively.
It's Young. Left-handed shot. Rattles out. And again, it's UConn underneath with Daniels. Getting it over to Napier. Pull-up shot. Yes! And it's a 3.
And it started, Steve, with terrific post defense. Patrick Young is not a guy that creates his own offense, and Napier makes them pay in transition.
They got a foul here on the Huskies.
defense to offense. I mean, that's what the game is about for UConn, because when they can get out in transition, these guards are so difficult to contain. Napier getting the three to go. The bench loves it. This game is just completely swung now, momentum-wise. Let's see what kind of poise Florida has. A ton of time, but we haven't seen the offensive execution that they need.
Nolan's going to come out with 3 fouls after this first attempt by Hill. Whatever you do, don't breathe. TNT and executive producer Michael Bay present The Last Ship, an explosive new series coming Sunday, June 22nd at 9/8 Central to TNT.
And that's a huge foul on Nolan for UConn, because now they have to go back to playing big. And then remember, their success has come when they've had that small lineup.
Republicans on his feet now, but he was getting some treatment during this timeout. Tracy, you've got the story on this.
Yes, that's right, guys. He was having ice on both of those knees. He is suffering from cramps right now, I was told. He also had the same situation in Memphis, but it looks as though right now he is just sitting on the bench hoping to return, guys.
See him hobbling to the bench before. And driving in, Prather gets a soft roll.
So finally a made basket, and now Florida gets back to its full court pressure. Remember, this is what allowed them to really contain UConn early. Not designed to make a steal, but just to use up some clock and get the tempo more in the Gators' favor.
And that's Daniels making sure doesn't get it. Taps outside to Prather. Prather's basket a moment ago, the first of the half, and the first in a 5-minute stretch dating back to the first half. That's a wide throw by Hill.
Yeah, just an unforced error.
Over to Gaffey. And it's Prather again clearing.
Dodged the bullet there. Turnovers often lead to wide open threes. Gaffey just couldn't let it get it to go.
Well, here they go. Boatwright up ahead.
And it's been about Boatwright's defense. The pressure here, forcing those 2 turnovers. In essence, the ill-advised pass by Hill, and able to pick his pocket there off the dribble.
And Boatwright guarding Hill. Hill made only 5 3-pointers the entire season. So when he's not on the ball, Boatwright can take some shots, take some gambles against other players.
Young, short, and out to Napier. Sped right past Hill. Now, coming in, followed up. No, Gaffey, though, is there. Gets the handle, short on the shot. He'll bring it back outside.
And that was another example offensively where Patrick Young's got to catch the ball far too far away from the basket to where he could be effective. He's not a guy that's going to create a lot of offense. They've got to do a better job with their offensive execution, Steve, in the half court.
I think that's been the story of the game. Travel, yeah. Daniels, but Greg, Florida's offensive execution has been non-existent since the early going. UConn's ball pressure taking over here.
UConn was down 12 in the first half, and then suddenly things have gone everything the Huskies' way. +8. Here at AT&T Stadium, Florida's never lost as a #1 seed. Came in as the #1 overall seed of the tournament and the favorite here, but they're in trouble right now here in the second half.
Florida's the team that's most noted for their defense, but it's been about UConn's defense in this game. Their ability to pressure and disrupt what Florida wants to do offensively hasn't allowed them to play to their strength on the defensive end.
Take a look there at Jim Calhoun and Rip Hamilton. Calhoun has had such a big influence on Kevin Ollie. To get back to what you were talking about, Greg, Florida is an ensemble cast. I mean, they don't rely on a star. So this ball movement that they just showed on that possession is going to be critical. That's the kind of offense that will win this game for them.
Prather hits the shot. Coming out of the timeout, and before the break, a traveling call on the Huskies, their first turnover committed in 13 minutes. Napier wants to challenge Wilbekin, then has to back off. And off the screen. Nothing there. Well, he finds his big man underneath. Defy. Open wing shot. Short. Napier taps it.
And the ball movement that has to happen for Florida on display here in this possession, just forcing UConn to have to move, not allowing them to load to the basketball. And Steve, as you mentioned, that's when they're at their best, is when that ball moves and the bodies move, and then they have an opportunity to use that size and attack the paint. 5
guys who average between 9 and 13 points per game, Florida, but nobody who's going to take over a game on his own.
What a play. Stopping Finney Smith on the drive. It's Napier. As the pass tapped out by Prather.
You think about the first possession of the game. Florida runs Michael Frazier off of a pick. He gets a wide open 3. Since that time, Frazier has not scored. Florida 0 for 6 from the 3-point line. So the execution, the ball movement, it's going to be the key to the game. It's been basically non-existent here tonight.
Oh, Daniels!
And how about the play by Brima? Again, not a guy that's even really looking to catch it, but a nice find there for that finish.
Contact at this end, but Daniels leads the Huskies with a dozen.
Well, this is why it's important for the ball to touch the paint, and that's a play that Florida, whenever it goes down there, they're going to provide help. No rotation from the weak side. Great read and finish by the Huskies.
Brima, though, at this end, after getting the assist, then at the defensive end commits his 3rd. Wilbekin out to Hill. Never would have guessed, Steve, as you said, they wouldn't make another 3 after they came right down off the opening tap. Made a shot seconds into the game. Not another one since that time. Wilbekin, ball comes out. And the Huskies have it.
Jim, the other thing I wouldn't have guessed is the points in the lane. Florida in the first meeting between these two teams outscored UConn 32-14 in the paint. Tonight, 16-10 UConn. So they're the ones, since the early going, actually 5 or 6 minutes, they're the ones who have controlled the inside game.
Napier. And Florida's Hill is tagged with his 3rd foul.
And watching this game, coming in, you had to feel that Shabazz Napier was going to be the best player on the floor. The problem for Florida right now, though, DeAndre Daniels has been the 2nd best player on the floor, and that's got to be disconcerting for this senior-laden team that has not been able to really figure out a way to attack offensively.
Boatwright takes it to the other side, and it's a Husky basket and a 10-point lead. Hill tries to answer it back quickly, and the Huskies foul him on the shot.
Greg, you mentioned early in this game, dealing with 2 point guards as a defense is so difficult because you've got multiple options for pick and roll. You see Napier finally getting a rest. No problem for Kevin Ollie. He's got Samuel on the floor with Boatwright. Both players able to run pick and roll, and Boatwright gets right to the rim. They wear you out with their constant pick and roll action and dealing with that speed.
4 fouls on Nolan, and Hill hits the free throw. Olander will send Nolan to the bench with those 4.
And you saw the adjustment by Billy Donovan. Now he's gone with Hill and Wilbekin in the backcourt to try to offset that somewhat, but they don't have the same rhythm and continuity because Boatwright and Napier have been doing this for extended minutes really the entire season.
All right, the made free throw sets up full court pressure, broken easily, and Chroma comes back out high to Boatwright. Now Boatwright sticks the jumper.
Some players get their confidence when they see the basketball go through the basket. Then there are guys like Boatwright. He gets his confidence from playing great defense. He's gotten some steals, been active here early, and now he's become a better offensive player for UConn.
Hill short, tapped around back to him, and Hill gets the shot to go. The second time. And that's going to be on Wilbekin. Celebrate all 4 teams that made it to the Final Four with official gear from the NCAA store. Team apparel and Final Four gear at ncaa.com/shop.
Jim, look at the numbers here. 11 for 32 from the floor for Florida, a team that started out quickly. Shocking for the #1 team in the country. Those kind of numbers now. Billy Donovan going back to that half-court trap, trying to change up the game a little bit.
Daniels pass was slow to get there, and Finney Smith was able to steal it for the Gators.
Maybe that's the best way to generate offense. If you're Billy Donovan, you're not getting much else. Start trapping, forcing some turnovers, but very dangerous to do against UConn.
A little easier, though, when Napier not in the game. Your confidence is going to be a little higher defensively if you're Florida.
Top of the key, and the Gators still looking for another 3 since the opening seconds.
And this is another area that gets lost as to why UConn is so good.
Oh, that's a walk.
Wasn't sure that was a walk, but their guards really rebound well. See, Boatwright and Napier have been great on the defensive backboard.
The Huskies. They have really turned this game around, and the bench and the Huskies loving it right now with an 8-point lead. Wilson at AT&T Stadium. And a reminder coming up this week, Masters Live with all the featured group coverage and the exclusive coverage of Amen Corner, the 15th and 16th holes. Just go to cbssports.com/masters and masters.com. Full coverage next weekend of that tradition unlike any other. Now, since 16-4, it's 35-15. UConn.
I think Kevin Ollie's move to go small changed the tone of this game. But now that he's got the lead, he's staying big because he feels more comfortable defending and rebounding with this bigger lineup. And he has already corralled the Florida offense.
That's Patrick Young. Now with 5 points on the night. Napier back on the floor.
Back to the 1-3-1 half-court trap for the Gators.
Swing it over to Boatwright. Napier splits him. Bounce pass inside. And it was Wilbekin who saw it coming.
And one thing about that 1-3-1, they have a lot of size at the top of it. And remember, Napier and Boatwright, they're on the smaller side, so they don't see the floor as well when they want to attack in the half court.
Young again. And back-to-back baskets by Patrick Young.
He prefers to go to that right hand, but he's capable going left. But back-to-back hoops from the senior. And suddenly, Florida's crowd getting back into it, and the Gators may be gaining a little confidence.
Right hand, left hand. And the senior from Jacksonville has the Gators within 4. Coming out of a Connecticut timeout after 6 unanswered by the Gators.
Yeah, let's see on this possession. We just talked about that 1-3-1. Does Florida go back into it? Because, again, I think they can create problems. They have a lot of length and quickness at the top, and you can see with that size, it's going to create problems, I think, for UConn.
The danger is Daniels from the three-point line. Wilbekin closes out quickly. But if they can penetrate and get into the gaps, they can find a shooter on the perimeter.
But the difference is they can't throw scoring passes. You see how all these passes are being thrown where they're not allowing you to attack? And other than that play there, what a pass by Napier. That was unbelievable.
Right over the top of almost all the Gators and Daniels now has 14 on the game.
That was a result of Wilbekin being on the backside of that zone. All that size you talked about on the front, that left Florida vulnerable in the back, and Napier, the senior, recognizes and takes advantage.
Prather. Olander got him, and the ball drops.
That's a big basket, really, for Florida. Totally different team the last 2 minutes, and coming off a nice curl here. And this is Prather. This is what he gives him. He's a slasher and a guy who can get in the paint and score at an efficient rate. In the last 3 possessions, really, for Florida, they've been able to, in essence, score points in the paint.
Prather at the line, one of 4 senior starters. This senior class that has combined played over 540 career games. They're the first team in the history of the tournament since they went beyond 8 teams in 1951 that made it to the regional finals and lost 3 straight years. And then their senior year, they kicked the door down, and they made it here. And now the crowd is beginning to swell.
Back to the man-to-man now for Florida. Billy Donovan did not want UConn to get too comfortable against that 1-3-1.
Bob underneath. And the call against Florida.
I'll tell you, they've gotten really good minutes from Brima. Does a great job of keeping his head under the rim on both ends, really, defensively as a shot blocker, and pretty solid hands at being able to catch in traffic.
7-foot freshman Brima. Let's go over to Tracy.
Well, guys, Scotty Wilbekin really struggling with those cramps. Despite him telling Billy Donovan just a few minutes ago that he's okay, he continues to get ice on those knees, and he is wincing in a lot of pain. It's interesting to see just how effective he'll be able to be with those knees right now, guys.
And, of course, when UConn beat him at the buzzer back on December 2nd, Wilbekin was not on the floor at the end. He had injured an ankle with 3 minutes to go, and Napier beat him at the gun.
And neither was Casey Hill in that game.
Yeah, he was out
tonight, so a little bit different scenario for Donovan this time around.
Prather took steps before he took off. So Wilbekin, sore knees and all, is back in with 8:39 to play.
I think Donovan will stick with this man-to-man for the next few possessions after giving up that weak side lob. I think the 1-3-1 served him perfectly. It changed the momentum of the game, but now you settle back into your bread and butter, which is your man-to-man.
Plus, they've gone with the 2-point guard lineup as well, which doesn't afford them the size at the top of that zone defense.
Ball was knocked out of Napier's hands, and Gaffey coming in baseline. And it was Finney Smith who got a piece of the hand.
Boy, Finney Smith just comes down with the arm at the last second as he tries to block the shot, and as a result, that's an easy call for the official. If you stay high and you don't swipe down with the arm, that's a really tough finish for Gaffey.
And now the senior from Berlin will shoot 2. Coke Zero wants to know, are you a real fan? Hashtag prove it. Visit the Coke Zero social arena in March Madness Live. Gaffey, recruited by, of course, Coach Calhoun, credits a lot of his progress at Connecticut to Calhoun's longtime assistant, the great George Blaney. And Gaffey, again, one of those who already has a ring from their victory down in Houston in 11. It's Hill. And it's Young flying through and muscling in. Bryman's going to be whistled for another one here.
And that was an example of the penetration by Hill, creating that offensive rebound opportunity for Young.
Brima has 4. You got Nolan with 4. Those are 2 of the 3 that they work in at the post position. The other one is Olander. But here's Young, who's had a struggle at the line tonight. 1 out of 4.
I'm still not thrilled about the way Florida's attacking it. It's like they're just trying to get to the rim via penetration, which is tough to do, although Brima's fourth foul will make it easier to get all the way to the rim. These guards for UConn do such a good job. I still feel like Florida's got to move the ball. You look at the numbers, Greg, 2 assists for the entire game for the Gators.
Hard to believe.
Yeah.
Now the small lineup for the Huskies as they take Brima out. Young this time gets them both. And he's coming out for Prather.
And as this game starts to get towards the end, you're going to see more and more of these possessions go down to where you have to execute the last 10 seconds. And remember, UConn is excellent at it. Florida's going to also have to be pretty good at it, as this tempo now, as it had sped up for a while, is going to start to slow down again.
Here's the switch. Finney Smith now guarding the smaller Boatwright. Daniels with the mismatch underneath.
This whistle will bring the under 8 timeout. But first it was a foul call on Hill of Florida. Call it a shocker. Production in the paint. +8 for the Huskies. I don't think anyone saw that one coming in. And what else are you seeing, Greg?
Well, we talked about the difference maker. I think it's been Ryan Boatwright's defense. Take a look at his eyes here, folks. He's counting the dribbles of Casey Hill, timing it, and able to stick that hand in and come up with that steal. And it was plays like that early on that really kind of stemmed the tide and turned the table for UConn in this game.
And Jim, you mentioned the points in the paint. I think the ball pressure is directly related to the points in the paint because Florida can't get it into its offense. You look at Michigan State last week, a powerful team with Brandon Dawson and Adrian Payne. Had 6 points in the paint the entire game because of the disruption of the offense from the UConn defenders.
Hill still in there with 4 fouls, and Samuel took it right to him and scores the basket. Hill had committed that 4th going into the break.
And one of the reasons you pressure the basketball is to basically force a team to play one-on-one. You don't want to allow them to run their offense. You want to make them one-on-one players, and that's what UConn's done a good job of doing since the first 5 minutes of this game.
Well, they've taken Frazier out of the game too, haven't they?
They sure have. He needs to play off of others.
It is Napier with the steal, and Boatwright ahead. And the Huskies increase the lead to 7. And Florida calls the timeout. There's Boatwright's mother.
UConn up 7. The defense has been the difference. Look at the ball pressure from Napier, forcing another turnover. Boatwright getting out ahead of the defense, and he scores. And once again, Florida unable to get into any kind of offensive rhythm.
And you take a look at the foul trouble. Did you see Wilbekin let his head and his shoulder shrug after that play? If you're Florida, you got to keep your energy level high. A lot of time in this game, it's just a 3-possession game, but they're playing like they're down 15.
Wilbekin hasn't scored since 10 minutes left in the first half.
And that was the one right there. Penetrate, not to score, but penetrate to pass, and you force the defense to react. Now you go to the foul line. So this was a good possession. Penetrate with the idea of finding a teammate, and that's just too difficult. You got to make too many rotations defensively, and as often happens, you end up in a tough spot, so you foul.
Gaffey with his 3rd, 2 at the line for Prather. And you can track all of your fitness goals and devices in one place with Upwave Track It. Sync up now at upwave.com/trackit. Now that Boatwright basket off the Napier steal, Wilbekin turnover was Wilbekin's first turnover of the whole tournament. 124 minutes.
Yeah, he hasn't turned it over a lot, but he's made some poor decisions. And oftentimes, even though it's not a turnover on the stat sheet, a bad decision is a turnover for your basketball team.
No look pass! Right on the money to Daniels. That was Boatwright feeding it.
Once again, finding that soft spot on the weak side at the hoop. Perfect pass from Boatwright. And back to this small lineup again for Kevin Ollie, who has been masterful with his substitution patterns. I think really keeping Florida off balance.
All the way over to Wilbekin. He'll take the three, and it's long. And it comes outside to Napier.
And that was an example, not a turnover, but a bad decision by Wilbekin there.
Underneath, Daniels waits and is rewarded.
And again, it's about Napier and Boatwright. They've controlled both ends of the floor. Defensively, not allowing Florida to get into a rhythm. Offensively, taking it to them at every possible opportunity. To North Texas, and look at Ryan Boatwright's eyes. He looks the defenders away and throws a perfect dime to Daniels. And then the same thing here. Prather is late in the rotation on that defense, and it allowed Napier again to make that play. And those two guards, Boatwright and Napier, and then DeAndre Daniels having such a terrific game, have been the difference. Really, they've been the three best players, you could argue, in this game.
And that's the biggest shock to me right there, that number, a complete reversal from what we saw in the first game. But again, it's directly related to the ball pressure. Ryan Boatwright's defense light years ahead of where it was in that early season matchup.
And Donovan with a couple of timeouts in the last few minutes. Feeling it slipping away, an 8-1 stretch for the Huskies after the Gators had closed to within 3. Young.
Small lineup again for UConn. Daniels basically the 5, so he has to guard Young. He does get him on the right hand. Anytime a player gets that kind of position underneath, the official will give him the benefit of the doubt if the call is close, like that one was.
2 shots for Young. He stepped up last time and hit them both. One of 6 seniors on this Florida roster that will be going through commencement exercises, getting their diplomas in the next 3.5 weeks. Now they have a chance.
The one concern now, though, is
to apply the full court pressure.
Jim, if you're going to have to defend the entire shot clock, Florida, the rest of the game.
Boatwright, tough pass, and a turnover.
What a bad decision there. He had Samuel right there open, just decided to try and hit a home run with that pass to Napier instead of taking the simple one. You can see the frustration there on Kevin Ollie's face.
Prather dumps it down low. Young over Daniels. Yes.
And how good has Patrick Young been here in this second half? Really doing a great job establishing post position.
He's got 10.5. 13 for the game.
I think Kevin Ollie now a decision to make. Do you stay with this small lineup? Because Young is starting to really dominate Daniels down on the block. I think it'll depend on the score here. If it gets a little closer, I see him making a change.
Got 5 this time. They've now hit their last 9 shots from the field.
And to your point, Steve, you're exactly right. I think his offense is going to determine how he defends here. He's more than happy to trade baskets with Florida if they can continue to score in the half court.
So Young slams it down.
Hey, Jim, that last bucket by Gaffai was the 12th field goal of the half as a foul is called on Wilbekin. 12th field goal of the half for UConn. 11 of them have been in the paint. Just a shocking number against one of the best defenses in the country.
We've got the under 4 timeouts. And just as it's been all tournament long, another game that's coming down to the last minutes.
Coverage of the NCAA Men's National Semifinals is sponsored by the Quicksilver Card from Capital One, Pizza Hut, Allstate, and by Infinity.
Let's take a look at the Capital One Cup impact performance, and the Huskies have made their last 9 shots, all of them in the paint. That was earlier in the game with Daniels, but Steve killing him on the inside.
I never dreamt we'd see this. Jim, against one of the best defenses in the country. But Florida, by mixing up its lineups, going small, going back big, they've kept Florida off balance. And in the end, the speed and quickness and playmaking of Napier and Boatwright has just dominated this game. Of course, Daniels having a big scoring night, 18 points, capitalizing off all that playmaking.
It'll be a 1-and-1 for Napier. His mother, who wanted him to stay all 4 years and get that degree. And he's going to do just that this summer.
Not only do you get the degree, but you become the best point guard in the country, and you prepare yourself for a long NBA career. Napier is something.
And you may potentially become a national champion to boot.
Yeah,
so
bookend championships would be pretty amazing.
And I think Florida, as you see here, I think they stay small because even though, I should say UConn, even though Florida's had success offensively, they have not had any on the defensive end. And as I said earlier, you're more than happy to trade baskets if you're UConn.
That was Nolan who blocked it. And Boatwright who brought it down. The Huskies have not missed a shot from the field in over 11 minutes.
And keep in mind, guys, last weekend in New York, in the 2 games in the regional, Huskies shot 41 of 44 from the free throw line. So if anybody's going to close this game out, it's UConn.
Working the possession down with inside 3, Boatwright. And as Young did not get a clean handle, but it bounces out to Frazier. Wilbekin tries to spin away. Napier was able to get a hand on it and force the steal.
And that's about the 4th time we've seen either Napier or Boatwright time the dribble of Hill or Wilbekin and come up with that deflection that leads to a turnover.
Daniels now with 20.
And the UConn fans are starting to dream about Monday night. They got a couple of minutes to go.
Finney Smith. Oh! Too strong. Prather waits. He too misses the short shot. And Daniels has another rebound. He's a rebound away from a double-double. Wilbekin reaches in, sends Napier back to the line with 2:04.
It's been about the quickness on the perimeter of UConn defensively, but that length as well. As you saw in that last possession, Daniels was able to go up over Florida to come up with that defensive rebound. And this is exactly how they want the game, where you have to extend your pressure in the half court with those 2 dynamic point guards on the floor for UConn. That's going to be a difficult challenge for the game.
And you pointed out early, Steve, one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country. 1-and-1 for Napier.
And particularly in this tournament, under pressure, they've been unflappable, and Napier gets that one to roll home. Greg, you talked about the ball pressure early. Not only does it lead to steals and some layups, but it's the demoralizing factor. You know, Florida now, all of a sudden, the body language down, a couple of steals here and there, and the game changed, I thought, midway through the first half when that ball pressure started to take effect.
And Florida's not the kind of team that has a guy that can carry them offensively. Wilbekin has been that at times, but it's been a struggle for them to generate any offense against that terrific pressure by the Huskies.
Hill, impossible shot. Finney Smith to Young. And he gets the hoop. Up ahead, Gaffai dunks it down. Wow, UConn with 1:40 to go is back up by 12, and it's the biggest deficit of the whole season for Florida.
And how about Napier recognizing Florida overextended? Great read for Gaffai.
Over to Young. And Florida has just taken its last timeout.
As Napier there, just head up. Florida a bit demoralized. Gaffai flying high.
UConn up 10, getting ready to play Monday night, and I love this. A team pressures you, continue to attack. And Napier recognizes that his teammate Gafai up ahead of the pack. And no sense pulling the ball out and playing for free throws. If you've got a layup or a dunk, you go for it.
Pass it into Boatwright. And Napier with a sloppy mistake. That's a rare sight.
Boatwright getting a little out of control too off the dribble. They've got to be a little more patient against that trap. And of course, Boatwright pretty low to the ground, that big trap. He may have had a hard time seeing over the top of it.
Nolan comes in for Samuel.
And really, Frazier and Wilbekin, your 2 3-point shooters on the floor for Florida.
And again, they haven't hit a 3 since 10 seconds into the game. Hill, no. And out to Daniels, who has now 20 on the night and 10 rebounds. How about this Connecticut team?
It's been as impressive a game plan when you think about what Kevin Ollie did in terms of the changing of the defenses, the extension of the pressure, and then able to control the style in which this game was going to be played. I mean, he knew he had the best player on the floor, but tonight, really, UConn had the best 3 players.
Best 3, yeah, absolutely. Boatwright and Daniels. And I'll tell you what I'm thinking about, guys. The first game of this tournament for UConn, St. Joe's has them on the ropes. They're down 3 without the ball in the final minute. Brima comes up with an unbelievable 3-point play, and suddenly here they are on the verge of playing Monday night.
Hey, when the brackets came out, I'm telling you, it was the fashionable pick too, was to take St. Joe's. Phil Martelli's team coming off a conference tournament championship. But you're talking about a 7 seed here. We hadn't had a 7 seed at the Final Four since Virginia 30 years ago in 1984 up in Seattle. Until the Huskies. Wilbekin.
The officials calling for help, and I think they're going to go look at this, Jim. Final 2 minutes of regulation and final 2 minutes of overtime. They can go to the replay to see who the ball went out off of. And I'll tell you what, this UConn team, you know, it's almost like the perfect storm when you think about the tournament. They survived the overtime with St. Joe's. They drew Villanova, a team I think UConn was more talented than the 2 seed Wildcats. Now they get to go home basically to New York, and they play an Iowa State team without George Niang, its best player. Take a look here at who the ball was off of.
It looks like it's off Florida.
I thought it was off Florida, but you know, they get past Iowa State. Now all of a sudden, you got to beat maybe the best team in the tournament, Michigan State, but the crowd, the frenzy of that home floor, and the momentum that UConn had built carries them through that one. And now this one, they look like the best team.
And how about, go back to that game, the first game against St. Joe's. They're down 3 with a minute to go, and St. Joe's had the basketball in that game.
They beat a Michigan State team that's the only program, Tom Izzo, to ever beat Connecticut in a Final Four game up in Detroit in '09. It's a UConn team that has won 3 championships since 1999 and is 49 seconds away from playing for another one. What a great try, though, to save it, but it's off the Gators. That was Patrick Young, and what a effort he's put up in this second half to try to find a way, the senior, to extend his career.
The effort and activity has been there for him. And you talk about this UConn team. How about how good they are in the Final Four? This will be their 7th win.
That's what I'm saying.
Final
7-1
games. How about that?
Only Michigan State.
Unbelievable.
In '09, only one to beat them in a Final Four. And Napier bypasses the shot. Daniels on the floor traveled, but only 31 seconds. I'll give you another one. How about in the tournament for Connecticut in the state of Texas? Already having won championships in San Antonio and Houston.
That's right.
And now they're going for the triple.
The trifecta.
The Texas 3-step, I guess. Huh?
and
another one in St. Petersburg, Florida, of course.
And really, for those watching this game, this is not a fluke. I really, in watching this game, UConn's a better team. And that should take nothing away from Florida, who's had a terrific season. They were the last team to beat them. And they're also going to be the last team to beat them again.
That's right. They end the 30-game streak that started after the first matchup. Spectacular performance by the Huskies. On to the championship game. I don't know what happened at the start. This was 16-4, 11 minutes and 11 seconds into the game, Florida.
Since that time, UConn outscores them by 22, and it really was indicative of the way the game went. They dominated the game. Once they got over the initial nerves, once they started to take the fight back to the Gators, this was all UConn.
And they also out-rebound Florida in this game as well. So they really owned every facet of this game.
I've seen it a couple of times in the Final Four semifinals where a team got off to a horrible start and then suddenly just flipped it and went on to win big. Seton Hall did it against Duke 25 years ago.
That's right.
In Seattle. And then back in 01, Arizona and Duke played. And actually it was Duke and Maryland in the semifinals.
Yes,
Remember
right.
that? And Maryland had jumped all over them early, and then Duke flipped it.
And, you know, Arizona did it to North Carolina the year they won
in
the title in 97. They were down, I think, 17-1. Vince Carter was dunking everything. It's amazing how this game can flip.
Well, that's it for Patrick Young and all those seniors at Florida. After just a great season, coming here as the favorite, and they are knocked out by the UConn Huskies. And let's go to Tracy Wolfson.
Well, thanks a lot, Coach. Let me start with you. You go to the smaller lineup. You change your defenses. How important was that for your success tonight?
Everybody was at a level 5, and that was the most important thing. Whoever I put in the game was positive, and they was productive. So we want to be positive, then we want to be productive when we out on the court. And everybody had 10 toes in. I told you, they fighters. So we get down, we keep fighting, and we keep believing in each other. DeAndre was huge for us. He stepped up and rebound. It's all about touches with him. When he plays with energy like this, he's unstoppable.
DeAndre, let me ask you, did you feel the need to just step up knowing that they were going to key on Shabazz and Ryan the whole game?
First of all, I just want to say all glory to God, because none of this would have been possible for him. But I just wanted to step up big time. I talked to Coach Jim Calhoun yesterday. He was like, man, nobody's talking about you. I said, don't worry about it. Everybody's going to be talking about me after Saturday. I told him I'm going to go out there and play my heart and give it my all. But everybody's always focused on our two guards penetrating. And I stepped up huge tonight, and everybody was out there playing hard. And we wanted to come out here and prove everybody wrong, because nobody gave us a shot to win this game.
All right, and you're on to the national championship on Monday. Good luck. Jim, back to you.
Star performance by Daniels, and there is Jim Calhoun. And his protege, Kevin Ollie, said, thank you, Coach, for believing in me to be your successor. And now Kevin Ollie, this is his first NCAA tournament as a coach. He's 5-0.
This is easy.
He's on to Monday night. Get me to the night. That's been the song all tournament long. Coming up, it's the Capital One Tournament Central, followed by Kentucky and Wisconsin. We'll send you to EJ and the guys after these messages.